in Philadelphia. It's entertainment at its very best. Be part of a new season of unforgettable shows, performances, and events. You're going to love the arts in Philadelphia.
Penn Vital Signs, Saturday on 6abc.
Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Monica Malpass, Rick Williams, and David Murphy.
Isabel's aftermath, one of many trees that fell in the tri-state area overnight, wiping out the kitchen here of a 200-year-old home. Downed trees on power lines continue to spark outages throughout the Delaware Valley. Hello, I'm Rob Jennings, and the big story in Action News this noon is the aftermath of Isabel. Here in the northeast of Philadelphia, in the 1200 block of Fanshawe Street, a tree fell on top of a car. This is Campbell Circle in Downingtown, Chester County. We'll see that in a second here. And a large tree completely blocked the road there. Isabel's rains flooded a lot of area roadways. This is the on-ramp to I-95 South, Allegheny Avenue in Port Richmond. That car going very carefully through that flooded water. Delaware Avenue was shut down between Washington Avenue and Spring Garden this morning. Officials were concerned that the Delaware River might spill over its banks at high tide at 9:07. And at Wiggins Marina in Camden, the water did spill over into sidewalks, but the boats appeared to fare this storm pretty well here. Now let's switch live to Action News reporter Walter Perez at a PECO Energy Operations Center in Plymouth Township, Montgomery County. What are the latest numbers on power outages, Walter?
Hi, Rob. Lots of information, so let's get right to it. PECO right now reporting 335,000 customers without power. 165,000 have been restored since the beginning of the storm. And as you can see in this graphic, we'll show you here, Chester County hardest hit with 142,000 people or customers without power. 15,000 right now in the city. PECO officials now telling us that they've had crews coming in from across the country working around the clock, but it may take until the end of the weekend before everybody is back online, so they're asking for everybody's patience at this point. Moving up to the Lehigh Valley, where PPL officials report 4,000 customers without power right now. PSE&G is reporting 55,000 without power in the Garden State. And obviously most of that damage there is in the South Jersey area, namely Camden, Mercer, Burlington, and Gloucester counties. Currently, they estimate all PSE&G customers will be back online by midnight tonight. That's just an estimate at this point. And finally, Connective, serving Delaware and South Jersey, reporting 300,000 customers without power. They've restored 168,000 customers. Damage there is very widespread. Lots of downed trees, downed power lines, and they right now have no estimated time, I should say, of completion. And one final note to pass along, PECO officials are saying that they're in the process of attaining dry ice for the areas hardest hit so people can preserve their food, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, no timeline as far as how they're going to handle that. They say in a couple of hours they'll have that information, and we'll have that information coming up on Action News starting at 5 o'clock. Reporting live from Plymouth Meeting, Walter Perez, Channel 6 Action News. Rob?
Thank you, Walter. You can say that Isabel dropped a triple whammy on Victor Marchese in Worcester, Montgomery County. He hadn't even made the first payment on that car. Brand new red Hyundai SUV, and a tree is on top of it. The tree also caught his work trailer and Ford truck. All in all, though, he is taking his misfortune in stride.
It's wiped out. Forget about it. It's not going anywhere fast. It's going to take me a month of Sundays just to take this tree apart.
We feel for you, Victor Marchese, just one of many area residents who have some work ahead in the wake of Hurricane Isabel. Now we go live to Action News reporter Amy Buckman. She's been surveying the damage in Philadelphia and Montgomery counties. Amy?
Well, good afternoon, Rob. We're at the Belmont Plateau, and the winds continue to blow out here. They are the same winds that left a lot of damage behind since last night. Once the darkness fell and the wind started blowing last night, trees and branches started falling. Here in the 1200 block of Glenview Street in Lawncrest, high winds pulled a tree out of the sidewalk by its roots. The tree fell onto power lines and caused an outage in the neighborhood. By daybreak, this crew from Puel's Landscape Company was busy chopping up a tree that had fallen onto the parking lot at the Beekman Place Apartments in Winfield Heights. And in West Mount Airy, neighbors along Wissahickon Avenue and Carpenter Lane were looking at this old locust tree that had split down the middle. Luckily for drivers, it didn't fall onto the street.
on my balcony, as you can see, and I heard a crack and then crash.
In Lower Merion Township, schools were closed for the day. Too many dangers for the kids, with tree branches like this one dangling precariously on power lines, and here a broken power line hanging onto the sidewalk. Now, I know we're beginning to sound like a broken record, but we can't stress this enough. If there are downed power lines remaining in your area, stay away from them and call your utility company. Live at the Belmont Plateau, I'm Amy Buckman, Channel 6 Action News. Rob?
Good advice, Amy. Can't say that one enough. Now, one of the hardest hit areas in the Delaware Valley is Chester County, and that is where we find Action News reporter David Henry. What's the story there, David?
Well, Rob, as Walter mentioned, still over 142,000 people without power here in Chester County, but the outages are spotty. Up and down the major business streets of Westchester here, all of these buildings have power. They've had it all morning long, but one major exception, the county courthouse. They had to send the county employees home this morning around 10 o'clock when they couldn't get power restored to the courthouse. All of this has been much of an inconvenience for a lot of people, but some awoke to a living nightmare.
Well, I got a wake-up call about 4 o'clock this morning. Loud thud, sounded like thunder.
What Mike found was this huge oak tree that had crashed onto his house, ripping off a corner of the second floor and crushing his 2 cars. His daughter Lisa would have been sleeping here in her bedroom, but decided to spend the night with a friend. His wife and son were okay sleeping in other parts of the house. Mike says he has to laugh to keep from crying. His family is safe, but they've got a lot of repair work ahead. Luckily, his homeowner's insurance is up to date. Trees came crashing down all over Chester County. This one in Westchester landed in the street between 2 houses. Residents awoke to neighborhoods transformed. Fallen trees and downed wires closed a number of major roads. The county is urging everyone to stay home as much as possible.
Our main concern is that we keep the roads open for emergency vehicles, let the power company come in, take care of the roads, give yourself plenty of time, and just be careful.
And the county has sent out 3 damage assessment teams, and what they're finding now is mostly wind-related damage, and that is fortunate because they were fearing a lot of flooding, but it never materialized. Live in Westchester, I'm David Henry, Channel 6 Action News.
Thank you, David. Governor Ed Rendell says this morning that things could have been a lot worse for Pennsylvania, all things considered.
Isabel followed a predictable track, and there were no surprises, no deviations, no departures from the predictable track. But I think local first
Rendell says 3,000 National Guardsmen will remain on duty today to help in the cleanup. Now, let's switch gears and check in at the Jersey Shore. New Jersey correspondent Kathy Gandolfo live in the sunshine in Wildwood. Hello, Kathy.
Good afternoon. You know, Wildwood is one New Jersey beach community that does not have erosion problems. It has extremely wide beaches, but this storm did manage to bring the high tide over that berm and create a kind of a tidal pool out there, you can see. Now, earlier today, we were in Cape May. That community did experience some beach erosion problems and some minor wind damage. The beachfront Marquis de Lafayette Hotel lost some siding. Some of it landed on the roof. Another hunk ripped through a canvas awning.
It happened apparently somewhere around 6 o'clock in the morning. It pulled off the side of the building, fell down on the awning, split the awning, but that's not a bad situation. So,
fortunately, didn't hit anybody.
That's the most important thing, that nobody got hurt.
Public works crews were busy cleaning sand from streets that were flooded for a while yesterday.
Right now, I'm just getting it out of the street, and then later we'll haul it away, take it back to the beach.
Back where it belongs.
Yeah, back where it belongs.
At the shore, too, tree surgeons were busy cleaning up leafy debris. This one just missed a house in West Cape May. Perhaps the biggest and costliest beating from Isabel was delivered to the beaches, where erosion is quite evident. Even this morning, the heavy surf continued to pound and eat away at the sand. And so shore officials will be taking a close look at their beaches today, and they'll be hoping that some of that sand is redeposited. All in all, though, the Jersey Shore dodged yet another potentially dangerous storm. Live in Wildwood, I'm Kathy Gandolfo, Channel 6 Action News.
Thanks, Kathy. Now let's switch live to Action News reporter Sally Ann Mosey in Pennsville, Salem County. Rising waters from the Delaware sparked some evacuations there earlier, Sam?
That's right, Rob. I mean, as you can see, the sun is shining now, and the waters of the Delaware River are starting to recede. But around 4 o'clock this morning, they were rising rapidly with the approaching high tide, and that caused officials to call for a voluntary evacuation. As the Delaware River pushed beyond its banks during this morning's high tide, some 21 residents in Pennsville took advantage of a voluntary evacuation to the local high school. Sherry Camp lives on Enlow Place.
I woke up coming out my front door watching water come through the bulkhead, and I said, oh my God, because during Hurricane Floyd, as bad as we flooded, we didn't have water come through the bulkhead, we had low tide. This time we had high tide.
Not knowing how high the water would rise and that the bulkheads had holes, residents were concerned.
The tide came up and the bulkhead is deteriorating and the water came through the bulkhead. We have storm drain problem to begin with. I mean, we have a lot of water, and that just compounded the problem, made it worse.
Bulkhead repair plans are in the works.
We're supposed to get the approval and start in October.
It'll take time, of course, to complete that project, and we do have a high tide at 6:30 this evening, so residents will be watching the rising waters. Reporting live in Pennsville, Sally Ann Mosey, Channel 6, Action News.
Thanks, Sally Ann. Now switching live to Nydia Hahn in Atlantic City, where Isabel's aftermath is not having an effect on the Miss America pageant parade. Nydia?
Rob, Isabel's fury fizzled here before she could do much damage. It is a beautiful afternoon. A different story, though, from this morning when wind gusts were up to 50 miles per hour. Regardless, the weather is calm. Isabel is not going to steal the show tonight. Look over here. These chairs have been set up for the Miss America parade. These bleachers on my lap for the same reason, an indication that things here are indeed getting back to normal. Sayonara, sandbags. Bye-bye, board. Atlantic City is emerging from the scare of Isabel relatively unscathed. Yesterday, many people were concerned the pageant and parade would have to be canceled, but pageant officials were determined they would crown Miss America this weekend. Public Works was out bright and early clearing the parade path and looking for any damage Isabel may have left behind.
Well, we're going to go along the boardwalk, checking the boardwalk, making sure that everything's secured and safe for the parade tonight.
Less than an hour later, no damage found and setup began.
Well, there's going to be several thousands of people up on the boardwalk tonight. In this area alone, we have about 2,500 chairs.
Of course, the parade doesn't start for another 6 hours yet. And while vendors, tourists, and pageant officials are optimistic, they're not breathing a full sigh of relief quite yet.
We're just hoping that, the weather holds off and it looks like it's doing, a good job so far. And keep our fingers crossed.
Again, the parade starts at 6 o'clock tonight. It's all thanks to Isabel's graceful exit. Live in Atlantic City, I'm Nydia Hahn, Channel 6, Action News.
Thank you, Nydia. Now let's see how the Delaware shore weathered the storm. Action News reporter Matt O'Donnell live at Rehoboth Beach. What's the story there, Matt?
Well, Rob, other than a little bit of a wind gust here, it is an absolute splendid day here at Rehoboth Beach. The sun is shining up above. There's not a cloud in the sky. People are frolicking here on the boardwalk. The waves are cresting out there in the Atlantic Ocean, and because of the lack of extensive damage here in southern Delaware, some are saying Isabel is a dud. High tide at Rehoboth Beach came in at approximately 2:20 a.m. The winds were strong. The waves were furious.
It's kind of nice. It's beautiful out. You see the stars, the moon. I guess the worst part's going now.
Authorities were most concerned about this time, wondering if the tide would be strong enough to exact extensive damage across this slender beach. There was some, but not all that much.
It's just windy, a little windy, but other than that, I don't see it too bad.
Further downshore, State Police and the National Guard blocked the road that leads to Indian River Bridge, the connector between Bethany and Dewey beaches. The waves may have damaged the underside of the bridge. It will remain closed until engineers determine the bridge's viability. Back in Rehoboth, for those who braved through the passage of Isabel, a reward. It was a beautiful sunrise, ascending over the rough surf of the Atlantic Ocean.
It's magnificent, but it's so terrible at the same time to see the power out there. Oh, my God. What a sight.
Back live here in Rehoboth Beach, you see a gentleman over there. He's sitting on some sandbags. He had placed them in front of a restaurant here along the boardwalk. No longer needed. Slowly but surely, they're beginning to once again enjoy things here in Rehoboth Beach and enjoy what will be a lovely Friday afternoon here in southern Delaware. Just a couple notes for you. 250,000 people remain without power in Delaware, sporadic outages, and officials are telling us that they'd like to have the Indian River Bridge open sometime tonight. They're still working on it. Live in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, Matt O'Donnell, Channel 6 Action News.
Thank you, Matt. Now let's check in with David Murphy in AccuWeather. What is Isabel's current status, David?
Well, Rob, the storm is moving up into Canada and really weakening at this point, but we still have issues left behind. Take a look as a tropical storm warning is in effect along the Jersey Shore and also for the Delaware Bay. The winds are coming in off the ocean, and for that reason, we got a couple of issues. Flooding along the Delaware Bay is still possible over the afternoon hours. Down the shore, heavy surf, rip currents at the shore, something to be aware of. High wind gusts overnight, 40 to 50 miles per hour over most of the region, 50 to 60 miles per hour in and around South Jersey and Delaware, and some of the numbers pretty impressive. 49 in Philadelphia, 60 along the boardwalks at the shore, 61 in Dover. And when you're talking damage, brother, we had it everywhere. Numerous trees down in South Jersey and Cape May with poles snapped there, trees and wires down, tree on a house in Gloucester County, down in Delaware and Newcastle County and Kent County, widespread trees and wires down, and finally up in Philadelphia, hundreds of trees and wires down. That's the same story in Delaware County, and out in Lancaster County, a tree fell in a car and there was one fatality. Through the afternoon, strong gusty winds continue, gradually waning as the day goes on, but there is the possibility of a gusty thunderstorm or two later this afternoon. More on that when I step inside, Rob, and we got the weekend coming up in the AccuWeather 5-day.
Thank you, David. Still ahead on Action News this noon, we continue our coverage of local storm damage, live reports in New Jersey and Delaware, and a look at dramatic flooding and rescues from Isabel's fury. David returns with our 5-day from AccuWeather and more when Action News comes right back.
Dinner ideas from the deli by Dietz & Watson.
Try this idea. Dietz & Watson London Broil roast beef and an herb crust with a salad and mustard dressing. From the deli, get a thick slice of Dietz & Watson London Broil roast beef. Coat it with oil and dip in a herb mixture, then grill and slice. For the dressing, mix Dietz & Watson mustard, sugar, vinegar, pepper, chives, olive oil, and lemon juice.
For the complete recipe, go to WPVI.com. Dinner ideas from the deli by Dietz & Watson.
Are you one of the millions who feel twisted and bloated and constipated? Is your body telling you something's wrong, but you're not sure why? If you have recurring abdominal pain or discomfort, bloating and constipation, see your doctor. You may have a medical condition called IBS with constipation. And now there's a medicine for women that works at the source of the problem. Prescription Zelnorm. Only Zelnorm's proven to relieve the symptoms of IBS with constipation. Unlike laxatives and fiber, only Zelnorm helps coordinate the nerves, muscles, and fluid in your GI tract, so it starts functioning more normally, and you can start feeling better. Zelnorm is only indicated for women, but it doesn't work in all women. You should not take Zelnorm if you have a history of diarrhea, kidney, liver, or gallbladder disease, intestinal blockage, or adhesions. Tell your doctor if you get diarrhea or cramping, worsening of abdominal pain, dizziness, or headache. Ask your doctor about getting relief with Zelnorm. Zelnorm. Be yourself again.
I'm really into decorating my home. I read all the home magazines, spend hours watching HGTV and trading spaces. That's my idea of heaven. So when someone like me needs furniture, where do I go? Kensington, that's where. It's my style on a budget. From the moment you step inside Kensington Furniture, it hits you. Everywhere you look, there's something you like. Somehow, some way, Kensington Furniture figured it out. They just get it.
If you see news happening, call the Action News tip line toll-free at 866-NEWS-6 or contact us online at WPVI.com.
We continue our live reports on local damage in the wake of Isabel. Let's check in again in Delaware and Action News reporter Vernon Odom in Wilmington. What's the story there, Vern?
The story here,